And with that, our first episode of 2024's On the Ring Apron goes live on TikTok. I'm Steve, one of our three members of On the Ring Apron, plus one of just hundreds of people in our OTRA universe, a subsidiary of the WWE universe. And I am here for a special episode as we head into one of my favorite weeks of the year, and that is the Royal Rumble. Easily my favorite non-WrestleMania-based event, and even then, depending upon who comes out, I might enjoy it even more than Mania. But for those of you joining us live on TikTok, first of all, welcome. I appreciate you guys being willing to come out and give us the support as you always have. If you're watching this later on one of our social medias, all of them, of course, the camera's backwards, are all located over here. We're on X, of course, TikTok and YouTube. We're on Hive, which is Canadian Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook as well. And, of course, we're also subsidiary members of the Mania Club. We actually just completed their OTRA Awards right before the end of last year and got an opportunity to be able to represent the Mania Club by doing our end-of-year award show. It was a lot of fun, raised a lot of money, and we're hoping that we have bigger things in mind. We are attempting to try to get to $60,000 in donations this year is our hopeful goal. So we've got a long way to go, obviously, very beginning of the year, but a very exciting week. We've got Plate Exchange. We're going to be following it up about 30 minutes or so, give or take, behind this episode for our Top Rope spoilers. Kia and Alyssa will be with me here on our respective sides, and we'll be able to go over the Royal Rumble. Should be a relatively quick episode. Only 4 matches right now scheduled to be on the card. Granted, 2 of them are Rumble matches. But it gives us an opportunity to be able to address exactly what's about to happen as we begin what is officially the road to WrestleMania, and an opportunity to be able to see where we stand at the moment. Also, for those who have joined me on these shows before, first of all, welcome back. But also at the same time, it allows me to be able to take our replica championship belts. You see a pair of them behind me that have exchangeable side plates, and we get blessed with being able to get early copies of a lot of the plates that the superstars get upon winning their championships. We do have one that we get to exchange tonight, plus a pair that we have to acknowledge, even though the plates were either A, already on our belt from a previous loss and then a very quick win back, or we don't have their plates yet. So we'll go through each of those. But also, in the spirit of this year being a presidential election year, I am also going to use this episode, since we only really have one set of plates to actually exchange, to use this as kind of a platform for what we're going to call State of the Plates. And you can learn more, of course, about your U.S. elections. Make sure you do your research and whatnot, regardless of who is going to present themselves as the GOP and the Democratic candidates this year. But the last thing I want to do on here is discuss politics. That's not why you're here. That's sure not why I'm here. But we'll go ahead and begin what we're going to just call State of the Plates, and we're going to go through each of the respective shows to kind of say, hey, here's who's the current champ, and where do we potentially project that it's going to go from here. So the first ones that we technically have are the 2 that are located directly behind me. They are formerly the Smackdown and Raw Tag Team Championships, which have been fused for over a year now as the Undisputed WWE Tag Team Championships. It's been teased multiple times that these plates, or that these belts would inevitably get split back up between the 2 shows, or potentially some new championship belts might get created. It obviously has not happened yet, as the 2 belts do remain unified, but also can be defended separately as concurrent champions, such as the Usos, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and the Judgment Day have all defended these championships separately on each respective show, as well as defending both of them together at live events. As mentioned, the current champions is the Judgment Day, more specifically the team of Finn Balor and the Mr. Money in the Bank briefcase holder in Damian Priest. So far, they have been the 2 that have been defending the championships every single time. They have yet to take advantage in any match of any Freebird rules, per se, in terms of being able to have any members of their championship or of their stable defend the titles. So we have not seen Dominic Mysterio, JD McDonough, or I guess R-Truth get involved in any of their tag team matches right now. But they've been the champions since about September, when they did successfully win back the championships from Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes, who held the titles for about 2 weeks before losing them back to Judgment Day. So, they've been holding the gold for a while now. Actually, we're going to hear a lot about the Judgment Day throughout this episode. But those are also the only championship belts that we have that do not have side plates. So I guess it's kind of advantageous that we have had champions that have had relatively long reigns, such as, you look at RK Bro, of course, the historic reign of the Usos. Owens and Zayn held it for a while, but no plates to put on these, unlike their NXT counterpart, which we will see here in a little bit. Staying on the red brand, which of course has just recently made news, that starting in January of 2025 is going to be moving to Netflix. Commercial free, still 3 hours. So definitely some opportunities for more superstars to be able to compete. The contract is, just mind-boggling. Half a billion with a B dollars per year over 10 years, with the expectation of SmackDown, NXT following after their respective deals with USA and CW respectively. You also look at premium live events and pretty much anything that's on the WWE network also heading to Netflix as well. So there's definitely some opportunities there. But taking a look at the current setup for Raw, and if I could get Alyssa, actually, before she leaves the room, to give me a hand, because these are a little out of reach and I don't want a belt to fall on me here. They just walked in the door with dinner. So in no particular order, she's just going to hand them to me, and we're going to go from here. But we're going to start off with the current World Heavyweight Championship, which is considered the top title on the red brand. This is, in its, entering its first full year of existence, as it was created in May of last year. There's only been one champion, and it is still the current champion, and that is Seth freaking Rollins, despite the fact that, of course, it was announced on Raw, and it is a legitimate injury that he is currently dealing with, a torn MCL and a partially torn meniscus, but he claims that he's going to continue fighting, and come hell or high water, or even potentially hurt or broken leg and tendons, he's going to walk into WrestleMania and walk out still the World Heavyweight Champion. He's been a fighting champion, defended over 60 times since it became into existence. So it's definitely made Raw's top title one of the premier championship belts, which of course goes a long way, because we very rarely saw Roman defended when he was holding the WWE Championship during his period of time. We will also now move to its female counterpart, and that is the Women's World Championship. Basically looks very similar, but just has the white strap a little bit smaller. This one has also only had one champion, and that is currently Mommy and member of the Judgment Day, Rhea Ripley. This championship was originally the SmackDown Women's Championship that Rhea Ripley won from Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania of last year. It became the Women's World Championship when all of the titles changed brands and changed names. So this kind of helps to eliminate that confusion of Raw champion on SmackDown or SmackDown champion on Raw. Just helps to kind of get rid of all of that. But right now, Rhea is not scheduled to compete in a match at the Royal Rumble this weekend, but she is expected to defend the Women's World title, likely inside the Elimination Chamber in her hometown of Perth, Australia, at Elimination Chamber in February. And then the third and last championship that's currently defended on Monday Night Raw is the Intercontinental Championship. This one also going through a rather historic reign at the current moment. This one is currently held by the Ring General, Gunther, of Imperium. He is currently at over 550 plus days. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but he has had a record-breaking reign. He's only suffered 2 losses since he has joined the main roster up from NXT. This, of course, was following a near 700-day as United Kingdom champion down in NXT and NXT UK prior to moving up to the main roster. He won the championship within 4 months and has held it for over a year and a half. He claims and portrays that he is going to win the Royal Rumble and get a chance to hold both championships because he has already declared that should he win the Rumble, he will challenge Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship while potentially still holding the Intercontinental Championship as well. So far, there's only been a handful of people that have come close to beating Gunther, but he has so far been able to handle his business while also still leading Imperium. So we will see if his reign will eventually be brought to an end by somebody, or whether he will inevitably win a world championship and then go from there. So that is the current state of the plates on the red brand. There are no, plates to swap out right now because all of the champions have been holding steady. In fact, we have not switched a set of plates on any Raw Championship belt, with the exception of just the creation of the new titles. Of course, adding Seth's plates to the World Heavyweight Championship and putting Rhea's plates on the Women's World title. But in both situations, Seth was the only one to win the vacant title, and Rhea and Gunther have both held their respective titles all year. Judgment Day also holding one half of the Undisputed tag titles as well. We will be discussing the women's tag team titles in a little bit. That's actually the one title that we actually can exchange, so they'll likely be moving to later in the show. But with that, let's move into the next show, which is our gold brand. That is NXT. Used to be considered developmental. I guess in a way it kind of still is, but for all intents and purposes, it has big names and big matches down there as well, and they certainly hold their own in terms of each of the respective championships that we have down on that brand. We do have 2 championship title changes since our last episode to speak about when it comes to NXT. However, neither of those will have an official exchange, one of which because it's going back to the champion that we had on the belt previous to it when it comes to the tag titles, and the other one is the North American Championship, which is currently held by Femi, who does not have a championship set of plates yet. Possibly could change that up when it comes to 2 weeks from now when we have our next NXT Premium Live event. That will be in Clarksville, Tennessee for NXT Vengeance Day. Right now, the expectation is that most to all of the championships are going to be defended, although some of the matches have not been announced yet. But let's move through the different title belts. The first one we did mention earlier was the NXT Tag Team titles. It's been this iteration of the belt for a couple of years now. Used to have more of a almost like a film star type, a film reel type of look to it, but they've changed this up since NXT Stand and Deliver in Orlando a number of years ago. It was either Orlando or New Orleans. I'm not sure which off the top of my head. But it's been this title belt for a while. Could very well be seeing some new ones potentially in the future. The current champions are the Don, Tony D'Angelo, and his Don in training chanting Stax Lorenzo. I just heard Kia scream out of the back room. She loves chanting. They're in their second reign as champions. They lost the titles for about 2 weeks to Chase U, but then Chase U would end up losing the championships back to the Don and Stax during their rematch. Of course, there's a good storyline going on right now where Chase U is on the brink of being removed from NXT. I think JC Jane has 1 week left to try to come up with a plan. Otherwise, they'll be considered bankrupt and out of business. So it'll be curious to see if JC can come to the rescue on the last possible day, or if Chase U will get ultimately a match, potentially at Judgment Day, for a chance to maybe save the school because of the unfortunate gambling storyline they've run with Andre Chase. The other championships that are currently with NXT, we have the mid-tier title, which is the North American Championship. It is definitely the largest belt by a long shot. Huge waist gap, definitely meant for some of our bigger champions. You've seen former champions like Keith Lee, definitely a larger guy. Karrion Kross had an opportunity to compete for it for a while. But also we've seen some small champions, such as Dragon Lee is one of the most recent champions. Wes Lee has held it for quite some time, the longest reigning North American champion of the NXT era. But currently, the championship is in the hands of a newcomer, breakout star winner, tournament winner, Oba Femi, who used to be a track and field star at the University of Alabama, Roll Tide. And he has come in and just completely obliterated most of the field in terms of the matches he's had, and in what ended up being just his 5th match on the roster, he beats Dragon Lee by cashing in his tournament victory contract after Dragon had successfully defended against Lexus King, and ends up winning the North American Championship. We do not have his plates because Oba himself does not either. So if he doesn't have plates, obviously we don't have them either. We did have Dragon Lee's plates, still have them in our possession. So Dragon is scheduled to get a rematch against Oba Femi at Vengeance Day in 2 weeks. So if Dragon was to get the job done, we've already got his plates ready to go. So we possibly could see this one. This one shows up on our show pretty often. So this is one that definitely gets swapped out quite a bit. I'd have to go back and look to see if that was the one that got the most. The women's tag team titles are non-existent at this stage. They ended up getting merged with the women's tag team titles about midway through last year, the last champions being Alba Fire and Isla Dawn before they got called up. They would end up losing them. So officially the final champions of the NXT tag titles are technically Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey. But those championships, unfortunately, are no longer existent, so they go into our dormant stage. We do still have them. If anybody wants to see them, just, reach out and ask. But moving to the 2 World Championships, we start with the NXT Women's Championship with the new iteration of NXT 2.0 about a year and a half ago in the new breed coming in. You ultimately got kind of the rainbow-esque colors versus the old black and gold that used to take place. A lot of big names have already held this championship, one of the longest reigns being by former star Mandy Rose. We've seen Roxanne Perez hold the championship. Indy Hartwell held it for, a couple of weeks before she was called up, and ultimately, right now it's in the hands of Lyra Valkyria, who was able to successfully win the championship from the man, Becky Lynch, back at Halloween Havoc when Becky came down, beat Tiffany Stratton to win the championship. Valkyria in her first reign as champion. She's, been very successful, very popular amongst the things, despite the fact that she's currently running a story where she's kind of being chased around by, fellow superstar Tatum Paxley trying to find her new identity, and I guess that identity is she wants to be Lyra. So it's interesting to see where that's going to go. She will be defending this championship at Vengeance Day against former champion Roxanne Perez. Roxanne is a one-time champion herself, had one of the longer reigns of last year, ultimately ended the record-breaking reign of Mandy Rose to win the championship. Roxanne officially never lost the championship. She ended up having to be stripped of the title due to a concussion she took in a title defense against Miko Satomura last year. But she was able to get herself into the ladder match at Stand and Deliver, ultimately won by Indy Hartwell. And so for a year, she has been working her way back into the title picture, and now finally gets, after almost a year of waiting, a one-on-one match to win back the championship that she never lost. So Lyra Valkyria and Roxanne Perez will go head-to-head in Clarksville. Also being defended at that same event is the Men's World Championship from NXT, and that is the NXT Championship. Very similar looking design as the Women's Championship. You have the red and then the blue along the other side, while keeping the old school silver or black and gold and silver X in the middle. A lot of big names have held this one too. Braun Breaker having a record breaking reign with this championship, ultimately unifying it with the United Kingdom championship as well as part of the lineage of this championship now. Carmelo Hayes with a great run in the middle of last year, but ultimately the championship is currently in the hands of the man who defeated Carmelo for it, and that is the Mad Dragon, Ilja Dragunov. Dragunov, a former United Kingdom champion before NXT UK went defunct. He is now the NXT champion after beating Carmelo Hayes, defending in a rematch. And right now he is scheduled to defend his championship at Vengeance Day in the main event against Iron Survivor Trick Williams, who is Carmelo's, friend and counterpart. There's a storyline embroiled right now where Trick got attacked earlier, and they were, earlier in the later part of 2023. They weren't sure if Carmelo is the victim. He has sworn that it's Ilja. Ilja has said no. I think this one's about to come to a head in some form or fashion, but ultimately it is now the protege, Trick Williams, who has definitely gotten over with the NXT universe, getting the opportunity to try to go win the gold. If they are able to win next week on NXT, Trick could be pulling double duty because he also could be teaming with Carmelo to try to win the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic as well. So big night coming up potentially for Trick Williams and, of course, for the current champion, Ilja Dragunov. So a lot going on in NXT, and to be perfectly honest, even though it's only a 2-hour show, that's honestly where you end up seeing most of the best matches because you've got people that are excited for the opportunity to be able to come up. And it'll be curious to see where NXT goes as we begin the road to WrestleMania, and in their case, the road to Stand and Deliver. One show to go, that is the Blue Brand on Friday nights. Of course, news coming out a couple of months ago, but now locking down the final details. There's a cat on the counter. Sorry, we have new little ones, fur babies, and one is not supposed to be on the counter and decided he wanted to hop up there. So that's gonna go get handled because he's not supposed to be up there. Shame, shame, shame. But continuing with the Blue Brand, we currently have the deal in place that's starting in October. Smackdown is going to move to USA Network with the inevitable move of USA losing Monday Night Raw, going to Netflix. So they're going to have about a 3-month period where both shows will appear one behind the other. And starting in October, it is also expected that SmackDown is going to go back to Tuesdays. So that'll definitely lead to some interesting stories and whatnot with it going back to its old Tuesday time slot instead of where it's been for the last few years being on Fridays. So we do have, of course, championship titles on the Blue Brand as well. Of course, we've already, camera flipped, spoken about the SmackDown Tag Team Championships being part of the Undisputed titles. That, of course, is still with Judgment Day. Our mid-tier championship is one of our heavier ones, and that is the United States Championship. It's gone through a few iterations, and a new version of the belt was created during the pandemic by MVP. We've had a number of fun champions such as Kevin Owens. We've seen Austin Theory, who had a very long reign with the U.S. title. He defended it at this past Mania against John Cena, and ultimately ended up having a fantastic run with it. The current champion, however, right now is Logan Paul. Logan Paul, of course, a part-timer who has kind of stepped into the WWE wrestling world and has been able to do a rather successful job. Hopefully that mute worked because I didn't want to cough in y'all's ear. But has done a fantastic job of being able to step into that WWE universe while also carrying the social media run that he is carrying with him. Victorious at SummerSlam, ultimately defeating the current champion at the time, which was Rey Mysterio, in a storyline that inevitably led Santos Escobar to leave LWO and turn heel. Of course, he's now leading what he calls the Legado World Order, but inevitably his feud with Rey Mysterio would ultimately lead to Logan Paul being able to win the United States Championship. He is scheduled to defend it this upcoming Saturday at the Royal Rumble, as he will defend it against Kevin Owens, who won a tournament to win the opportunity to be able to compete for this championship. So we'll be curious to see if Paul is able to retain the championship over the prize fighter and get an opportunity to be able to take it into WrestleMania. And then moving into the two world champion over on the Blue Brand, as we continue our state of the plate, we have the new WWE Women's Championship. It does say Undisputed Champion at the bottom, but I think Rhea would have something to say about that. This replaced the Raw Women's Championship in the middle of last year to kind of give it a name that wouldn't represent it necessarily to one brand. This has been the only one of the new championship belts that actually has had some exchanges because so far the new belt that we'll be showing next for the Undisputed title, as well as the World Heavyweight Championship and the Women's World Championship, all have not had any changes at all. This is the only championship that has actually changed hands in some form or fashion. The original champion was Asuka. She held the championship for a couple of weeks, ultimately successfully defended against Charlotte Flair, but would end up losing it in a triple threat match that would also involve both Charlotte and Bianca Belair. Belair would actually end up winning that match to win this championship for the first time and be the only person currently to hold the Raw, the Smackdown, and the Unified Women's Championship in their career. So a moment, unfortunately, that run would be very short-lived as the knee injury would allow Miss Money in the Bank, Io Sky from Damage Control, to cash in her Money in the Bank immediately after. So her title reign would only be about 4 minutes before Io Sky would win the championship. And she is still the title holder to this moment. So her plates are still on our championship belt here as well. Right now, Io does not have an opponent this upcoming Saturday, so curious to see if she is going to find out if her opponent will come from the Royal Rumble or will her opponent come from inevitably an Elimination Chamber match in February in Perth. But right now, she is the champion and is expected to be likely the champion heading into WrestleMania, as of course there is no current women's Money in the Bank holder to have any surprise defenses. And then, of course, the big daddy, the granddaddy of them all, as most people would say, I hear woot woot from Melissa to my side, is the current iteration of the WWE Undisputed Universal Heavyweight Championship, which is the fusion of both the WWE Championship and the Universal Championship that were both held as the respective world titles prior to the new ones being created. This one has all the lineage of the previous championships all kind of merged into it. And the reason why it was changed to one belt is because of the record-breaking reign of one man, and that is the current undisputed champion, the Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns. Roman now sitting at well over 1,200 days as the undisputed champion. Of course, this would be the defining of his Universal Championship run. So his run as the undisputed champion sitting closer to around 1,000. But right now, I mean, he's in rarefied air. He now has the fourth longest single reign in WWE history of any world champion, closing in on Hulk Hogan's record. He would have to get to September of this year in order to be able to cross that record to move into third. You're then looking at Pedro Morales and Bruno Sammartino. Morales had it for over, I think, 2,400. Bruno was over 4,000. I don't know if they're going to let Roman hit those kind of numbers, but we will see. But ultimately, he could be potentially staring down his last couple of days because he is scheduled to defend the Undisputed Universal Heavyweight Championship in a fatal four-way this Saturday at the Royal Rumble. This will actually be Roman's first multi-man title defense since all the way back at WrestleMania 37 when he defended against both Edge and Daniel Bryan at the same time. That was the infamous smash 'em, stack 'em, and pin 'em moment where he would pin both of them simultaneously to retain the championship. Otherwise, every title defense he's had for almost 3 years has been singles matches. So this will be his toughest challenge, definitely in the last couple of years, as he defends against 3 very worthy challengers in LA Knight, the phenomenal AJ Styles, and the returning Apex Predator and Legend Killer, the Viper, Randy Orton. And of course, fatal four-way rules, no disqualifications, no countouts, and you don't have to be related in the fall in order to lose the championship. So could Roman's record-breaking reign end without him even being involved? I guess we will find out, but there you see his plates who have been on ours. This is like the 58th or 59th episode of Plate Exchange, something like that. His plates originally went on our Blue Universal Championship all the way back in episode 8. So it's been a little bit, and I even said at the time and joked about it, I said, take a good look at this one because you're probably not going to see this one on the show again. It'll definitely be a big deal when that happens, but the question is it going to happen this Saturday, or are we looking at Mania or even beyond? There are so many different directions they can go, especially with so many worthy competitors in the Rumble. So the blue brand definitely showing off its strength as well. Of course, with the Tribal Chief leading the way, trying to keep his bloodline together. He lost Jey Uso in the middle of last year, but Jimmy and Solo still carrying on, of course, with the wise man, Paul Heyman. I'm starting to get his hairdo here if I work at it just a little longer, but he doesn't have my facial hair, so we're going to have to run with it. I figure I'm a good combination of both. I've got the Heyman head and the Roman beard. I don't know if that works or not, but I guess we'll find out. So we've gone through all of the different brands, and it's curious to see, because I'd like to do this every year, and of course give your opinion and see what you guys think through, the different chats, whether on TikTok now or on YouTube or whatever. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, definitely take the time to go on to the Mania Club. Consider joining. We've got a lot of fun events. A tailgate coming up right outside of the Tropicana Field, the former home of the Thunderdome, of course. This upcoming Saturday before the Royal Rumble, we will be representing Mania Club and, of course, ourselves, the OTRA Universe, both at the Royal Rumble this Saturday, and all three of us will be at Vengeance Day the following Sunday in Clarksville, Tennessee for the NXT Premium Live event. But amidst all the championships that we have discussed, we do still have one left, and it's the only one that we can actually do an actual plate exchange. And that is the only championship that we have in the women's division that can be defended on any show, and that is the Women's Tag Team Championships. Now, this one, unlike a lot of our world title belts, this one was kind of a revolving door championship in 2023. It seemed like every other episode we had this one on here, because this one actually changed hands 12 times last year, sometimes going back to teams that had already won it before, but this was one that was a regular staple on our Plate Exchange show. Very easy way to be able to get women into a title picture. This one, of course, going viral about a year and a half ago when Sasha Banks and Naomi, now known as Trinity, walked out holding the championships because they didn't feel like they were being defended properly. Whether that message has been carried or not, I'm not really sure. But they are still being defended. They were unified middle of last year with the NXT Women's Tag Team titles. So I guess technically it's defined as the Undisputed Women's Tag titles now. But it's gone through a few different iterations of recent long title reign of the former champions, which were Piper Niven and Chelsea Green, running the stories that they run with Chelsea, of course, playing the role of, the Karen, I suppose. And as you can see, their plates are still on there. There's Piper's and then there's Chelsea's. But this is actually the only ones that we can exchange, as just before the Christmas break, we did have a title change, as we did new champions in the women's division, and those are what they are calling the Twinkle Twins. Kind of like that name. It wasn't good at first, but it's growing on me. But that is the team of Katana Chance and Kayden Carter. They did hold the tag team titles down in NXT for a little bit before ultimately getting called up. And it was curious to see if they were going to get the proper push, but it is good to see that they have, and not only that, they have moved themselves up to win gold. So we do have their plates available. They are the same as the plates they had on the NXT women's tag titles when they did win them, only now on the round plates. That's Kayden Carter's. And then Katana's is slightly askew, but you have the Katana plate kind of going sideways. Very nice, nice plates, very nice designs, allowing them to be able to use their logos. And they very much stated from the beginning that they were going to be fighting champions and were going to take on any and all comers, and they have up till now. They have successfully defended these championships in the last couple of weeks, successfully against Tegan Nox and Natalya, and you've also seen them win the recent rematch against former champions Piper and Chelsea. But they definitely will be facing their largest challenge as champions up to date, but they don't seem to be scared of the moment. They don't seem to fear the possibility of losing the championships, but they will be battling against former 3-time women's tag team champions from Damage Control, and that is the team of Asuka and Kairi Sane, known more prominently as the Kabuki Warriors. This was a team that regularly ran with these championships for quite some time, especially during the pandemic era prior to Kairi leaving the company. Able to win the championships both as face and a heel team, and obviously with Damage Control's current run of wanting to hold all of the women's gold, potentially with Io already holding one, and then Bayley's hope to win the Royal Rumble so she can beat Rhea, and possibly Dakota going down to win the NXT Women's Championship. Damage Control definitely set on a pathway to try to do it, and it appears that Kayden and Katana will be their first opportunity. The expectation is that all of them will be in the Rumble this Saturday, but of course the title's being defended on Smackdown this upcoming Friday in what very well could be a main event type caliber match. So we'll definitely be curious to see if Damage Control is able to pull it together so close to the Rumble, and also are Kayden and Katana ready for easily the toughest challenge of their careers, because Asuka and Kairi have taken on some of the best. They beat Bayley and Sasha. They've taken on teams like Alexa and Nikki Cross, who were former multiple-time champions. So they definitely know what they are doing in terms of the tag team division, and now when you add in Damage Control surrounding the ring, it definitely will add some extra pressure to Kayden and Katana, the current champions. But we did get their plates in time, and as a result, able to acknowledge them on the show. So there are the plates for our only actual exchange of the episode. I don't think we'll ever go 37 minutes without a single exchange on an episode like this again, but, you know, here we are. But there's Katana's, and then shifting over, there is Kayden's, to allow them to currently hold the women's tag titles. Do we only have maybe 2 more days in their reign before the Kabuki Warriors win them back? Or are these going to stay on here? Only time will tell. But with that, that does bring an end to this plate exchange episode. Not only to get all of our plates up to date, of course, Sans Oba Femi, you know, when we get his plates, we'll definitely make it part of the show, but wanted to acknowledge his championship. And once again, Roll Tide, you're representing well. But also give the champs that we do have plates for, Kayden and Katana, their due. We've met them both. They're both wonderful. Hope to see them again soon. Definitely looking forward to seeing them this weekend in the Rumble. And also, thank you so much for joining us for what was kind of an impromptu state of the plates is what we're going to call it, where each year I'm going to just... First episode, we're just going to go over all the championship belts that we have and see the plates and who's the champion, and then see where it stands at the end of the year. How many exchanges does each belt have? How many days, etc. I'm going to try to do a little bit better in terms of keeping track of that statistics. I'm a stat guy, so, you know, we'll see if that ends up panning out. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and head out here for a little bit, take a little break, eat some dinner, and then we're going to try to jump back in here in a little bit to go ahead and do our top rope spoilers for the Royal Rumble. So this was Steve with On the Ring Apron, Kia and Alyssa both providing some cameos and some help, because that's a lot of belts for me to carry by myself. But you'll be seeing them here shortly, and also we do have a very big announcement coming up regarding the two of them over the next couple of days, so definitely be on the lookout for that. But for the rest of you guys, you know, hang tight on TikTok here just a little bit. Go charge your phone, maybe go get a snack yourself, and come back and watch out for us going live again here in just a little bit, so that way we can be able to have some fun with you guys talking about the Royal Rumble. So, again, Steve for Plate Exchange. See you in a little bit.